Hello there, so I'm going to show you how to make rice my way. So the thing about rice is you can make it all sorts of ways, and the more intent you put into it, the more magical and the more nourishing it becomes. So that is the principle behind which I'm operating on making my rice. And it comes from the Ayurvedic tradition, so I'm going to use white basmati rice. It's a very well balanced rice. It's easy to digest. So the very first thing to do is to get your rice and to soak it for 20 minutes. So this has had a good soaking. After it's been soaked for a good 20 minutes, it can be longer. What you then do is you pour the water and the rice that was in the bowl into a sieve. You pour the water from the tap, run it through to wash out any of the starch, and you just leave it like that to drain. So that's your rice. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add something called saffron. Now saffron is a very powerful plant spirit, and I use two kinds actually. I use this one which I've bought from the packet, and this one which I actually got from Tenerife. They're both Spanish saffron. This is a very strong one, this is a milder one. I put the two together, a small pinch of the strong one and a bigger pinch of the mild one, and I pour water into the cup and I add the saffron to it, and that's what it looks like. So again, leave that for a while to integrate in. So what's happening there is the saffron penetrates into the water. Saffron is one of nature's antidepressants. It's a really powerful antidepressant medicine, so we're actually doing something very medicinal with this rice. Now let me just walk you over to this part of the room. So what I've got here is I've got the salt, the coconut oil. So the coconut oil will go into the pan first, then the salt, the rice is draining, the saffron water's all ready. Now I'm going to get some of these. These are called cardamom seeds. So I'm going to put some cardamom seeds into this little cast iron pestle and mortar. I'm going to give them a grind. That's it. So let you have a bit of a look at these then. So that is the result of grinding up the cardamom. It released a strong aroma. It's a cooling spice. So I've got a cooling spice, I've got antidepressants, coconut oil, which has got so many medicinal properties. We'd be here all day talking about it, so I'll invite you to do your own research and move on. And we've got some salt. So let's get it all together. So because it's that time of year, the ray burn is off. I'm making use of this gas ring. So the very first thing I want to do is to get half a teaspoon of coconut oil and put it in the pan. So the reason why I'm doing this is because I'm going to coat all of the grains in the coconut oil. When you do that, that stops the rice from coming out like a stodgy mess. It also makes it much more digestible. So a nice sprinkle of some salt in there. So I've got the salt, I've got the coconut oil. As soon as that coconut oil has melted in the pan, I will add the cardamom, and I'll leave it just long enough to start to blend. So a quarter of a teaspoon at the most, not much at all, just a little bit. And as that starts to heat up, the kitchen is going to become permeated with the aroma. And that's one of the things about this way of working in the kitchen, cooking with the plants, is there are so many sensations to take in. Indeed, I have made films a couple of years ago, ASMR is where you actually allow your senses to extend out into your environment and become more and more aware of the tiny details of what's going on. Aromas, appearances, all the rest of it. So let me see if I can move this over a lot closer. There we go. So there we are, that's the cardamom and the salt and the coconut oil, and that's starting to get quite hot now, the coconut oil, which means it's my cue. So I'm just going to shake out the last drops of water from the rice, and I'm going to put the rice in. Immediately, as soon as I can, I want to start stirring the rice. So this is how I coat all the grains, by stirring the rice into coconut oil. I don't take more than 30 seconds to do this, and once I've done that, I get this cup full of the saffron water, pour that in, and just look what a delightful colour has erupted into the pan. These really lush, rich, yellowy, orangey colour. So I've got 1 cup, but I need 1.5 cups, so I'm going to put a bit more water in, swill out the remaining bits of saffron, do that again, get the last fragments of saffron out of the cup. Saffron is not cheap, so it's worth being very sensible when you're using it. So all I need to do now is to cover that pan, bring it to the boil. When I've brought it to the boil, I'll turn the heat down to the lowest possible, and within 15 minutes the rice will be ready. And I'll discover that by using a chopstick and poking it down. So what I find happens is that when the water boils, by the time that's happened, the rice has absorbed so much of the water it starts to rise to the surface of the pan, and it's like the water gets gobbled up so quickly when you do it this way. So I'm going to leave that to do its thing and get ready to make the next dish.